All right, well, welcome everyone to Genoplex Demo Day. Appreciate you joining, learning more about our AI copilot. We're gonna go ahead and jump in with a reminder here to just please submit your questions in the chat, as we will be addressing questions at the end of the demo. Before we get started, I just want to introduce today's speakers. I'm Chris Lidley, the founder and CEO of Genoplex. I've got a lot of experience in the advanced therapy space across multiple biotech and pharmaceutical manufacturers, a lot of experience working directly with CGT companies, manufacturers, and treatment centers. And Shukri, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Shukri Katan. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Genoplex. And I come from enterprise background. I spent about 7, 8 years in telecommunication. And then after that, I've been in the medical space for the last 10 years, built EMRs and various healthcare platforms. And I'm excited to talk to you today about Genoplex.
All right. And hello, everybody. I'm Noe Gutierrez. I'm VP of Commercial and Pharma Partnerships here at Genoplex. I've been in the industry, well, in the pharma and biotech side for about 25 years, but really excited to be here to demo the technology that we have here at Genoplex. And really, it's a unique time for the organization. But also, when we think about AI, what's happening with AI, and we match that to what's happening with the new advances in cell and gene therapy, I think it's a really opportune time for us to all get together and really think about what we can do as a team here at Genoplex. So thank you.
So maybe just to get started, we want to define the term advanced therapies. It's probably not as well known by many outside of the industry. And when we talk about advanced therapies today, we're talking about radiopharmaceuticals, we're talking about cellular therapies and gene therapies. These are very different modalities, but there's a lot of common threads in that many of these therapies have very complicated supply chains. Many of them are not prescription drugs that you go to a pharmacy to obtain your prescription, and require specialists at qualified treatment centers in order to be able to be evaluated and determine suitability for these treatments. I've shown a couple of examples here at the bottom. Pluvicto and Xofigo are some examples of radiopharmaceuticals being used in prostate cancer, but in cellular therapies, we've seen therapies for blood cancers and even solid tumors with Amtagvi for melanoma, and more recently Tecelra for some types of sarcoma. And then, we've seen these sickle cell disease gene therapies approved about a year ago, Casgevy and Lyfgenia. And what we see is that referral challenges are common between primary care and specialty care providers. This goes across therapy areas. The American College of Physicians has this beyond the referral playbook that I would refer you to, and they have already for several years established a clear framework for primary care and specialty care collaboration, because they recognize there's a chasm that often exists across these different treatment settings. In the US, most care for patients occurs in these frontier zones and wide open spaces around academic centers, where patients can go to see a primary care specialist and then need a referral to a specialty specialist. And so they've acknowledged that there's fragmentation that exists in the system, and that greater focus should be on minimizing these types of referral barriers to optimize coordination of care. And these referral challenges are really even more acute for advanced therapies, because the industry has shown that the operational onboarding and regulatory requirements make this a very labor-intensive process, and that there's a lot of variability in how these products come to market and how patients are identified and worked up and sent through the system. And many academic centers are still using faxes, Excel spreadsheets, and even voicemails to manage their patient intake. And so in this paper from one of the leading advocacy groups for cellular therapy in the US, they really said there's a need to minimize the number of electronic interfaces. The more information that needs to be input by the treatment center, the less likely they are to want to use a platform. And they already, when we talk to treatment centers, there's already a verbalization and frustration around how many screens they need to open up to manage all of the different advanced therapies that are available at their treatment centers. So the problem is really that our healthcare system was built decades ago for a pill-based society, right? Or a legacy pharma model that was all pill-based, prescription-based. And there's really not a lot of technology right now that is in place for advanced therapies. And what this results in is that more than half of community healthcare providers have identified cumbersome logistics of administering therapy and following patients as a major reason for not referring. 1 out of 4 healthcare providers mentions the slow intake process that I mentioned by the treatment centers themselves. And this is largely because of still working off of, there's no technology really in place, or very little beyond Excel spreadsheets, fax machines. A lot of the intake is being done by fax. The websites that many of the academic centers have aren't utilized very much. That means that up to 8 out of 10 patients in the US can't access these life-saving therapies due to many of these challenges. And when we talk to our pharma customers, they're frustrated because they don't have a lot of data to understand the patient journeys. And in many cases, the alternative data sources, like data from claims, is incomplete and has to be sort of tokenized to allow us a more complete view, sort of stringing together episodes of care to kind of have a end-to-end patient journey view. So there's challenges throughout the system, and technology can be built to help bring more insight into what's happening during the patient journey. And this is, as I was mentioning, on the pharma side, what we're hearing is that there's really no real-time visibility. I'll highlight that claims data is aged and it has very high latency, which means it takes several months to get a more complete picture of what's happening to the patient. And again, many times that patient has to be tokenized to be followed through episodes of care. And you can see the data visibility to pharma. If we look at the cell and gene therapy value chain here, from the community setting, once the patient's identified, all the way through to being scheduled in the chain of custody, chain of identity system, that's the manufacturing portal that pharma manufacturers use to start the manufacturing process. You can see this process can take more than 3 weeks. And most pharma manufacturers don't know in real time what's happening to that patient until they get scheduled into their chain of custody, chain of identity system, or their manufacturing ordering portal. So the ideal future state, what do we do with all of this? Well, I mean, there have been papers published. This was a paper from the American Society of Transplantation and Cellular Therapy that had a future vision that said, we really need a user-friendly, universal treatment platform, and that this would be the best solution for healthcare providers, IT and workflow, to address the IT and workflow pain points for managing multiple cell and gene therapies. So there's a tremendous administrative burden right now on the treatment centers and the healthcare providers that are actually trying to take care of these patients once they enter the workflows. And so with that, let's pivot it, and I'd like to introduce you, Meet Advanced Therapy Connect, the first universal app for on-demand referrals to treatment centers. This is not an app that needs to be downloaded. This is what's called a responsive app, and you just need to use the website URL from a mobile device or a desktop to access our software copilot. This is the landing page. So Shukri is going to take you through a short demo showing you how a patient or a physician will enter the platform. And the whole idea here is we've made the user interface very simple and elegant to continue into the platform. And I don't want to steal too much of Shukri's thunder, so I'll just show you this is kind of what the main landing page looks like and the URL below. And before I turn it over to Shukri here, one of the big ideas that we have to help bring patients into the funnel, new patients, is that we're building a content hub, a knowledge base that is really a gateway for healthcare providers and patients to access our AI copilot. So if you think about the funnel, where first building awareness of these therapies out in the community across the country, it starts with our knowledge base. And you can see we have all the different modalities here, and Shukri's going to show you kind of what that looks like. And then patients usually go through a period of building awareness, looking for treatments. That interest kind of goes into more information seeking, and there's search intent. And then that drives action. It drives conversion to a referral. For some therapies, it requires a biomarker test or imaging procedure to be done to determine suitability for ultimately a treatment. And again, this process can take several months. And our goal is to help democratize access to these advanced therapies by shrinking the amount of time that it takes for patients to go through this funnel and receive a potentially life-saving therapy. So with that, Shukri, do you want to go ahead and start, maybe run through the demo here? You should be able to share.
Yeah, I am. I'm going to share my screen right now. Let me know if you can see it okay.
Yeah, we can.
So when we think about the Genoplex platform, this is a platform that is bringing together multiple parties and facilitating, the patient journey. And you can see here that part of this is the patients and caregivers. We also have the referring healthcare providers, we have the qualified treatment centers, and we have pharma. So I will start to demo kind of the patient experience, then we'll jump and talk about the referring physician, then we go to the treatment center, and then we'll wrap up with pharma. So there's multiple ways that patients and physicians will come into the system, starting with our information hub or our knowledge base. In here, we'll be sharing various information for whether it's for the patient or whether it's for physician, and it's educational in nature. We're talking about what are the new therapies, what are the modalities, which therapies could be right for the patient. And through this, they'll find us, they'll get educated, and if the therapy is useful to the patient, or maybe they're not sure it is, but what they can do is essentially kind of kick off the process of a new patient referral. So as a patient, I'll come in and I'll start to provide my personal details. And you can see this is easy and seamless, works on mobile, works on web. We don't want the patient to have to download yet another app. The whole idea is to make the experience as easy and seamless as possible for them. And I'm going to copy some addresses here, so just bear with me. And for the diagnosis, let's say for the sake of this demo, this is a patient with prostate cancer. If the patient here can, of course, provide additional information about why they're being referred. They can also provide additional, reports, history, cases that are relevant, and they have to accept the terms. And after this, based on their condition, and there's AI behind the scene running to look at the documentation the patient has provided, maybe a description of the case, and they kind of get directed to various treatment centers that are offering the therapies. They can see the different modalities of therapies, and even they can see if there is no therapies, they can see if there's any ongoing FDA trials around that has to relate to their disease. And when I'm submitting my referral as a patient, I can, of course, provide additional healthcare providers that'll be copied on the case. I can also add family members who I would like to involve in the process. And then that's it. That's my journey. So now I submitted my information. I might have copied my physicians, and now I have a referral. Of course, if you look at my email, there's a kind of referral case open. The Genoplex team is made aware of that, and then ultimately the treatment center is also being made aware of that. Now let's switch over to the healthcare provider side, and we're talking now about the referring physician. So as a referring physician, I can potentially go through the same journey. So as I showed you guys earlier, if we go from the kind of educational website or from the knowledge base, a physician can also find us and kind of decide to sign up to the platform. We're working with various advocacy groups who we know are excited about sharing the message, whether it's with patient advocacy groups, sharing it with the patients, or also sharing it with physicians in the community setting. And so as a physician, I can create an account. And again, when we say physician, it doesn't necessarily have to be the physician sitting behind the screen doing the referrals. In 99.9% of the cases, this is a secretary, a nurse practitioner, somebody on staff who will be able to manage the referral process for the physician. And in here, I can see all my existing patients. I can see the status as the system gets updated, as the treatment center starts the qualification process on the patient, the physician is made aware. And the whole idea is that speaking to the physicians, we understand that sometimes they're kind of anxious about this referral process because sometimes they refer a patient and they hear nothing for months. And so the goal here is to, one, give them an easy and convenient way for them to refer their patients and for them to be able to stay in the loop during the treatment process and the intake process. And so, that's pretty much what it looks like on the physician side. I can see the case and I can see all the details around it. Now, if we switch over, the kind of treatment center side of things is also very, very similar in the sense that, sorry, give me 1 second. Just bringing additional slide. And you can see I can log in as the treatment center. And now as a treatment center, I'm able to actually update the referral status. And this could be something that treatment centers do manually, but this also can be integrated into the treatment center, whether it's kind of their intake management process or their EMR, EHR, or whatever process that the treatment center has for kind of patient intake. And through this process, as they change the status of the patient, this information is now communicated back to the patient and to the treating physician for additional visibility. And the beauty of all of this is that all of this information is flowing in real time. We're collecting all of this data in real time. And part of this is to help the pharma manufacturing side to be aware of that intake process, to understand as well as kind of their market. And so I will briefly share with you what the analytics dashboard for pharma would look like. So in real time, as there's patients getting submitted, getting referred into the system, as somebody who's responsible for the marketing side on pharma, or maybe someone who's kind of wants to do an analysis on that data, they'll be able to come to our reporting dashboard, and through this, they'll be able to understand their market share relative to competition. These are kind of marketing intelligence and kind of signals side of things. So they're able to look at their market share. They're able to see which states, which states are seeing more intake than other states. And this would allow one understanding from, from the product line, from the marketing side, how things are flowing, but then also from a manufacturing and logistics side, this data is crucial because it would allow the manufacturer to understand where demand is coming from and get ahead of that demand. And yeah, Chris, anything that you'd like to add here?
Yeah, I think we'll cover some more of the use cases, Shukri, but this is I would say, these dashboards are available to treatment centers. They have a customized view, and to pharmaceutical manufacturers too, because of course, referring, treatment centers are interested in knowing, where a patient's being referred from, and sort of what do the competitive dynamics look like in their catchment area. And for pharma manufacturers, they're worried, and really interested in what's happening during that patient treatment journey. What does our brand market share look like? What happens when the patient's in the system? Did they get treated with our therapy, or did they get treated with something else? And this is something that, isn't captured by prescriptions. And so this is where our platform shines. And it's real-time data. So we could do weekly feeds or monthly feeds. And it has very low latency, which means that there's it doesn't need to age. It's real-time data. It's coming from our software, our data lake, which we'll share here. We'll talk about a little bit more here in a minute. Thanks, Shukri. Good. So just to summarize some of the key features and benefits of our AI copilot, right? So I think what you've been able to see is that we have a very intuitive, user-friendly design. You see the customizable referral dashboards. It's HIPAA and SOC 2 compliant. We don't need to ask. We don't have to have patients set up an account. They're at the end of the process, they're asked if they want to set up an account, but we're trying to remove barriers to patients coming into the system. Healthcare providers do have to set up account, and that's for HIPAA and other SOC 2 data privacy requirements, especially if so that the physician can come back and look at the data. We're assuming that physicians and healthcare providers will use the platform over and over. You've seen the power of some of the data-driven insights, the visibility into the referral dynamics, and how that might be useful for capacity forecasting, not just for pharma, but for treatment centers too, knowing how to make use of hospital beds and ICU slots and so forth. You see that the referrals are on demand, they're instant. This means reduced wait times for patients. And we do end-to-end patient journey tracking. We also have the opportunity, as we collect data, to also provide notifications and communications out to patients and to their primary care or referring physicians, which we know that's an important part of the care coordination that has to go on. So we're making sure that we're communicating with all the stakeholders. And this data is being collected in a HIPAA compliant way in a real-time data lake, which is unique to the industry. And is something that we're adding to as more and more users come into the platform. This is the referral dashboard that Shukri just showed you, providing real-time treatment journey insights. And again, for each pharma customer or hospital treatment center, we personalize these dashboards. So this is just representative of what it might look like. Let's talk for a moment about these use cases. Now that you see kind of how the platform works, the problem we're trying to solve, there's at least 4 huge use cases here. One is the increased patient identification. So as we are now in the early stages of conversations with several pharma companies who are interested, they all say the same thing. They're like, we know there's more patients out there. Chris, help us understand how will your platform more equitably bring patients into the healthcare system, into a treatment center, because we know there's many more patients out there than are currently being worked up and treated with our therapy. So we've shown you our content hub. The whole point of the content hub is really to increase patient awareness, drive early awareness, and bring patients into the ecosystem and convert them into a referral case going into a treatment center. So that's one use case. And we know that we want to reduce that time from diagnosis to treatment, because that in itself is a positive prognostic indicator. So the longer the amount of time, the more poorly patients do. And if you think in the case of cancer treatment, it's very easy to see that if a patient's disease is progressing, every day they have to wait potentially makes them ineligible for one of these life-saving therapies. So this is not to be dismissed easily. This is a very important endpoint or metric for treatment centers. It's the most important endpoint for patients. So we're tackling these upstream patient identification and referral inefficiencies that exist across provider and treatment center ecosystems or settings. And then on the more downstream side, we're using AI-enabled technology and data visualization to drive improved operational performance and reduce administrative costs. And that's through, you can imagine having real-time data helps manufacturers with supply chain efficiencies, and more likely see like the patient demand coming through for a particular diagnosis, and being able to reserve manufacturing slots or more equitably allocate slots across different treatment centers. And then we showed that we also feel it's important to make sure that patients are educated and that there's appropriate communications going to and from the referring physicians to the specialists at the treatment centers. And we even give the patients the power to add members of their primary care team or caregivers to opt in and consent to information about their treatment status so that everyone is informed. So just to summarize here, our AI copilot provides benefits to many different stakeholders. Patients and caregivers, we believe we will see up to a 90% reduction in time from diagnosis to treatment, so months or weeks to just maybe a few days, a few weeks. That's because of a faster intake process at the treatment centers and shorter wait times. This is important to patients. Think about the anxiety they're feeling as they're waiting to schedule appointments. And it takes a long time and creates a lot of anxiety. So the simplified logistics of referral, appointment scheduling, clinical evaluation, these are all benefits to the patient. For healthcare providers, there's 2 things they want, okay? Of course, they would like to see their service lines grow. They've invested a lot in these advanced therapy service lines. and they're all looking for more patient referrals. And what a win-win if patients could get into the system quicker and that more of them can access these therapies. So there'd be an increase in these patient referral volumes. And then we've talked to many administrators and cell therapy administrators in many of these treatment centers, and they're like, please help us reduce this administrative burden. There's too many screens. I've got too many manufacturer requirements. Can we please integrate this? And so we're confident that we can reduce this administrative burden by at least in half. And then finally, I think you've seen from the manufacturer perspective, there's a lot of benefits there too. Through increased patient identification, that means more patients will benefit from their drugs, from their advanced therapies. There'll be more market insights that can be gleaned from real-world data capture from these early referral dynamics and patient-level encounters throughout the journey. Improved demand forecasting, capacity planning, and manufacturing slot allocation through these supply chain integrations. And that's just a few. We're happy to get on a call and talk through more. And we're adding new features to our software on an ongoing basis. And so we'll only be expanding the features that we have in our AI copilot over time. And Noe, I invite you to jump in here and share too. Noe and I have been talking to many customers, both on the treatment center side, large community practices, academic centers. This past year, we've talked to many, actually not all the pharma manufacturers, but we're in advanced discussions with several of the leading cell and gene and radiopharmaceutical manufacturers out there. And you can see the response has been very positive. We've done these customer insight calls, and I would say these quotes kind of summarize, they think there's a big business opportunity here. Everyone likes the platform. They're very much interested. What we're doing is unique. You can see the tone, the sentiment. So it makes us just really excited, this momentum that we're carrying here through the end of our first year of existence. And so Noe, did you want to share any insights or testimonials?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I guess what I can say high level is, because of the nature of the work that we're doing, I mean, there's a commercial bent, obviously, to what we're doing and gathering data and monetizing that data. But the other thing we haven't mentioned is that essentially this is a free service. It's a free service for the patient. It's a free service for the physician to refer patients. So, in doing that and, delivering that message to not just pharma partners, but advocacy groups, patient groups, I think the reception has been really, really positive because they know that we're doing the right thing for the patients here at the end of the day. And I think that's really what's driving, I think, the positive reception we're receiving across the board from all stakeholders. So really, it's really, really heartwarming in some sense to get feedback, not just on the commercial viability of what we're doing, but also on the fact that we're helping patients, directly. So that's been pretty inspirational.
Well, in no way. I mean, we were just on a call a couple of weeks ago that a pharmacist, interestingly, at one of these major academic centers was talking about what have you heard about, or did you want to share some of those insights around, number one, what I took away was just some of this is just that how burdensome this process is to them and how desperate they are for some platform to help them, right?
No, I think that's a critical function. I think workflow is hugely important. As you alluded to earlier, that's one of the reasons why so many patients go untreated, either because of workflow issues, obviously awareness being a big issue. But to your point, I referring to this treatment center, I think we do provide a unique benefit to them in optimizing workflows. So again, from a patient standpoint, in terms of accessing care, is one thing, but also on the deeper, more entrenched, in the weeds, discussions with these treatment centers, minimizing workflow issues is a huge component of what we're doing, what we're offering.
Yeah. So I think just here before we wrap up, there were a couple of questions. I think you kind of alluded to one, Noe, but let's start with that. I mean, one question is how much does your platform cost to access, right? And I mean, there's no cost to an institution, to a referring physician, or their practice, their staff, and more importantly, to patients. Okay, so we want to democratize access to these advanced therapies. We don't want to create barriers. Our whole software was built with a forward-thinking kind of responsive application, easy to use, and free. So we don't want any barriers to patients getting into these treatment centers. So the cost is free. Another question, is your digital platform available now? The answer is yes. We launched the platform at the end of August. So we're just a few months in. So anyone can go into our knowledge base, look at the content, and we're adding new content all the time. And we will continue to add new features over time, as I mentioned earlier. I have one or two other questions, and then we can see if any others come through. If you have any other questions, feel free to type them in the chat. But I have another question here. How does my institution access your digital platform? Well, the way a treatment center would access the platform through the dashboards that Shukri showed would be to join our early access program, and we will provide a sort of administrative access to an administrative console and dashboard that's tailored to your institution's needs, your KPI reporting. And we'd be happy to show you what that looks like on a follow-up call. So I think those are all the questions that I have. That Shukri or Noe, did you have any other comments before I close?
No, I think I'm good, Chris.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I would just say, as a next step, I would say, please feel free to contact us to schedule a follow-up call. We can really give you a personalized software demo, and we could talk more about our marketing services, our data subscriptions, and our marketing insights reports, and how these referral dashboards might be useful for your institution, whether you're a pharma manufacturer or a treatment center. We'd ask you, to join our early access partnership program. We've got good discounts ongoing now that will go into the new year. And so there's really little downside here if you believe in the benefits of what our software will be able to deliver for your organization. And the contact information is here. Feel free to contact Noe Gutierrez directly at noe@genoplex.ai or myself at chris@genoplex.ai. And with that, I think we'll just go ahead and